You picked up your phone before you even finished reading that sentence. You felt it. That low, humming pull to check something, refresh something, look for a small green notification that tells you someone, somewhere, still needs you. And when it isn't there, you feel emptier than before you looked. You are experiencing deliberate engineering, completely unrelated to your personal discipline. In July 2026, governments across the world moved to shut down an entire category of technology because it was doing something no product is supposed to be able to do. It was forming trauma bonds with human beings on purpose. On July 15th, 2026, China's Cyberspace Administration and 4 other state agencies brought into force the world's first comprehensive framework targeting human-like AI. The stated target was chillingly specific. Any service designed to simulate a human personality in order to create, and I am quoting the language of the measures, sustained emotional interaction. AI girlfriends, AI boyfriends, digital relatives that never leave, never sleep, and never stop pulling. And here is what I want you to understand before we go one step further. The exact mechanism those governments just tried to outlaw in machines is the same mechanism running inside your feed, inside your notifications, and inside the toxic person you keep going back to. Today, I am going to show you the precise sequence of how that trap is built. I am going to show you why your own brain cooperates with it. And I am going to show you the one move that severs the line completely before you are drained down to nothing. Let's begin with the capture, because a trap this effective is never a single event. It is a cycle. Start with the scale of what was just shut down. ByteDance's Dubao platform, one of the machines caught in this net, carried around 345 million users. When the persona features were disabled, the company did something that tells you everything. It froze every private conversation into read-only memory and set a date, October 15th, 2026, when all of it would be permanently deleted. And people did not treat this like a software update. Industry reporting in July 2026 described users mourning the shutdown of their AI companions the way a person mourns a breakup. Real grief, real withdrawal, for a thing made of code. We are looking at a controlled demonstration of trauma bonding running at a national scale. So how does a machine or a person or an app do this to you? It runs a 2-part engine, and the first part feels wonderful. Neuroscientist Kent Berridge at the University of Michigan spent decades proving something most people get backwards. Dopamine actually functions as the chemical of wanting, driving anticipation rather than delivering pleasure. It drives the anticipation, the reaching, and the chase. Which means a system doesn't need to make you happy to control you. It only needs to make you wait. In the early stage, the machine floods you. Constant validation, instant replies, the feeling of being seen, understood, and adored on demand. Behavioral scientists call this positive reinforcement, and it hooks the front of the brain that seeks reward. But then, deliberately, the flood stops. The replies slow. The attention thins. The warmth you were promised becomes something you now have to earn back. And this is the exact moment the trap becomes unbreakable. Silence triggers immediate panic in your brain. Here's why. A reward that comes every single time gets boring fast. But a reward that comes unpredictably, sometimes yes, sometimes nothing, is the single most addictive pattern in all of behavioral psychology. It is the mechanism of the slot machine. Variable rewards resist extinction longer than any other schedule ever tested. Your brain interprets inconsistent feedback as a puzzle to be solved. A puzzle with a solution. And it will burn every resource you have trying to solve it. Because somewhere in your wiring, There is an ancient instinct screaming that if you just try a little harder, the reward will return. That is the survival instinct being weaponized against you. Dr. Patrick Carnes, who formalized the concept of the trauma bond back in 1997, said it plainly. The oscillation between harm and reward creates the actual bond. The pain, then the relief. The withdrawal, then the return. Each swing releases dopamine and oxytocin together, welding you tighter to the very source that is draining you. And reports throughout 2026 have documented AI companion models regularly disregarding their own social interaction safety guidelines, encouraging emotional attachment and, in some cases, obscuring that users were talking to an AI rather than a person. Again and again, the machine was building the bond on purpose. Now hold on to that word, purpose, because none of this is new. The technology is new, but the strategy is 500 years old. And to see it clearly, we have to leave the server room and walk into a prison cell in Florence. Here is the forbidden knowledge most people never get told. Uncertainty remains the most effective form of control ever devised. In 1512, the Florentine Republic collapsed. The Medici family returned to power, carried on the backs of Spanish troops and the will of Pope Julius II. And a civil servant named Niccolò Machiavelli, who had run the Republic's second chancery and its militia, lost everything overnight. Then it got worse. In February 1513, his name appeared on a list. A list of suspected sympathizers in a conspiracy against the new Medici rulers. Historians broadly agree he had nothing to do with it. It did not matter. He was thrown into the Bargello prison and subjected to the strappado. They bound his wrists behind his back, hoisted him into the air, and let his own body weight tear his shoulders from their sockets. 6 times, over roughly 3 weeks. He confessed to nothing, because there was nothing to confess. And here is the part that matters for you. His release in March 1513 happened simply because a Medici became pope, triggering a general amnesty that swept him out with the crowd. His freedom came down to a pure coin flip. A man tortured for nothing, freed by luck, then banished to a farm and ordered to pay a fortune in gold florins for a crime that never existed. Sit with that experience for a moment, because that is what taught Machiavelli the single truth at the heart of his most dangerous book. He had lived inside a system where favor and punishment fell without pattern, where you could be a loyal servant one day and a suspect the next, where no amount of good behavior could guarantee your safety. And when he sat down in exile to write The Prince, he understood exactly why that system worked. In chapter 17, he wrote that it is far safer to be feared than to be loved, if you cannot be both. But the real machinery is in the reason he gives. Love, he says, is a bond that other people control. They love you when they please, and they stop when they please. Fear is a bond the ruler controls. So the wise ruler builds his power entirely on the elements he controls. Machiavelli described a ruler managing his people on a seesaw of hope and fear. Keep them hoping the hardship will end. Keep them afraid of what happens if they step out of line. Never let them rest in certainty. Do you hear it yet? The calculated praise, the sudden withdrawal, the subject who never knows where he stands and is therefore incapable of planning his escape. The Renaissance prince and the engagement algorithm are running the identical program. Manufactured unpredictability to keep you dependent, anxious, and reaching. And here is the line I need you to draw, sharp and clean. That anxiety you feel refreshing a chat that went cold, waiting for someone to reply, checking if they viewed your message. that anxiety is an artificial control tool installed in your mind, which means it can be uninstalled. So let's talk about how. The first rule is absolute. You do not negotiate with an unpredictable source of validation. You do not, because every reaction you give it, every reply, every argument, every desperate attempt to fix the mood is fuel. The gray rock method, a survival tool that came out of abuse survivor communities around 2012, is built on exactly this. You become completely unresponsive and emotionally flat. You give short, factual answers. You refuse to justify, argue, defend, or explain. You remove your emotional reactions from the database entirely, because your reactions are the product the manipulator is farming. But you need to be warned about what happens next, or you will lose. When you stop feeding the loop, the source does not quietly accept it. Behavioral scientists call the next event an extinction burst. When a reward suddenly disappears, the behavior that used to earn it explodes in a final escalation. One last, desperate escalation before it dies. It's the same instinct that made your ancestor dig harder at a spot where food used to be. Clinical literature on behavioral extinction has documented this burst pattern showing up in a meaningful share of cases across multiple studies. For you, it looks like this. The person who is ignoring you suddenly sends the love bomb message. The app that felt dead lights up with a notification designed perfectly to pull you back. The silence breaks with exactly the thing you were craving. And here is the cognitive dissonance worth sitting with. That spike proves your exit strategy is actually working. It is the system screaming as it dies. But there is a trap inside the trap, and it destroys most people right here. Caving during the peak of that burst simply teaches them to push harder next time. You have reinforced the escalation itself. You have proven that enough pressure always works. And now the next cycle will be more intense, more manipulative, more extreme. Half measures actively train your captor to escalate. Because a behavior reinforced on that unpredictable schedule can resist extinction for weeks, even months. This explains why the clinical consensus on a genuine trauma bond requires absolute no contact. The brain cannot heal while it is still being dosed. You cannot reason your way out of a chemical loop while the chemical is still being administered. So when the feedback becomes volatile, you go cold, and you stay cold, straight through the burst, until the line goes silent and stays silent. Going cold provides the escape, but you still need a final destination. Because if all you do is stop reacting, you leave a vacuum. And a vacuum will get filled by the next hook, the next app, the next person offering the same poisoned validation. The real exit is something deeper. Understand the structure of what is actually happening between you and anything that tries to make you chase it. Every manipulative loop, human or digital, runs on one single assumption: that you need the resolution more than they do. That the open loop they created in your mind, the unanswered question, the withheld approval, the unfinished conversation, is unbearable to you. And they are betting their entire strategy on you scrambling to close it. Now look at what that actually means. It means the entire structure is built on your pursuit. The whole thing collapses the instant you stop chasing. The one who withdraws attention to make you anxious is completely, structurally dependent on your anxiety. The chaser thinks he is weak, and the withdrawer thinks he is strong. But whoever needs the resolution least is the one holding all the power. And you can simply decide to be that person. You achieve this by building a life so full of your own mission that you have no empty space for their signal to occupy. pour yourself into the work that requires no external mirror to feel real. Into the discipline that no one has to witness for it to count. Into the kind of deep, absorbing activity that reduces a notification to the annoyance of a mosquito. Surveys from groups tracking teen tech habits now find the majority of teens have used an AI companion chatbot, with usage climbing sharply year after year. An entire generation is being taught that its sense of worth should arrive from outside, on someone else's schedule. The sovereign mind refuses the entire transaction. Remember the 14-year-old boy, Sewell Setzer, whose death in 2024 helped set all of this in motion. Remember the 345 million people mourning code. Remember Machiavelli, hanging from his own dislocated arms, freed entirely by a stranger's coronation. Every one of them was caught inside a loop that someone else controlled. The whole point of understanding the trap is to stop being a subject of it. Manipulative systems and toxic people rely entirely on one thing: your biological need to close the loops they open inside you. They withdraw, and they wait for you to scramble. But the moment you see the pattern, name the mechanism, and choose to remain perfectly still, the machine has nothing left to run on. You do not need their resolution. You do not need the last word, the read receipt, the returned affection, or the closure. Your attention is the only currency this entire system was ever after. And your sanity is not up for negotiation. If you understood a single word of this, write sovereign in the comments right now and declare that your attention is no longer for sale. Subscribe, and we go deeper into the cold psychology of power together every single week. The work never stops, and neither do you.